Um, do you want me to talk about Songs of a Seeker? That's the one with
Yes,
four songs.
please. Yeah.
Okay. Songs of a Seeker is about love, spiritual knowledge, and of the world of nature and death. And people might go think, holy shit, those things don't go together. And I know that, and they don't, and I don't care. What those There are three songs, and they were all written separately at different points. And the third one is actually, I didn't write it, I just wrote Can You Take a Bow?
Oh, the forest song.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So members, you're looking at Brian Tucker, the composer, that maybe I should interview for a few minutes about why not? I mean, that could be fun. Um, but the first in those three songs, the first one is the song, the words were written by Shakespeare. Um, and it's sonnet, oh my God. Is it Brian, you might remember, is it 114? I think it's 114. Um, let's see, what's the first part? Because people that if anybody listens to this, someone will know. Shoot, I can't think of the beat. Anyway, it's a sonnet about love. And so, because Shakespeare wrote it and because it's about love, I didn't feel like, and that song is completely all tonal. There's nothing strange in it at all. It's very tonal. But I didn't feel like with Shakespeare that I wanted to throw in some crazy stuff in because I love his writing and I didn't want to detract from the beautiful words he wrote, and I wanted to only kind of kind of highlight his words, and that was it. I didn't want to do anything else with it. The next song in that series is near and dear to my heart. It's Hazelnut, the Hazelnut song. It's Anchoress Julian of Norwich, and that part that she where she said, and I don't know if it was an angel or the Holy Spirit or it was someone from, you know, other realms that gave her a hazelnut. She was looking at it in her hand and she said, "What the hell is this?" But she said it in nicer language. And the answer when she said, "What is this?" The answer was, "It's all that is." And so I always love that because it's very Course in Miracles. It's very Einstein. It's very everybody like that I love. Um, it might even be a Buddha. I don't know, but anyway, so that music, because Anchoress Julian was in she was an anchoress. What that meant and the oh my God, I'm going to mess up the dates here. Brian, do you remember her lifetime?
It's in like the 1500s, I think. 16,
Permission to
15, 16.
I think it would, well, I could be wrong, but I think I looked it up not too long. I thought it was 13, 14
Okay.
I thought it was a little bit before that. But anyway, but a long time ago. But an anchoress in those years, because I didn't know, I had looked that up, and that's someone who is basically walled in a
Yes.
little room in the church, and they basically just are walled in by their own will so that they can just pursue spiritual stuff. So Anchoress Julian would just pray and meditate and write really cool books. And she's, as far as I know, the first woman to have written something that was published. And that was another
Yeah.
reason
Yeah.
why.
You're right. Around 1343 and died after 1416.
Okay, there we go. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you very much for looking that up. So I wanted her song. And I wrote that song for Shari Gruber, who's a dear friend of mine. And Shari was the one who actually sang on the recording that's online. Shari sang the Shakespeare um, sonnet. Um, the uh, so this because she's walled into a church, the whole thing sounded horrible to me. I mean, when I read about her life. So I wanted to make it kind of spooky sounding. So I have at one point I have a part that's I stole Beethoven a little bit of Beethoven Moonlight Sonata because she's walled into a church. She's dealing with what many people would consider the occult, like forbidden, like working with angels and whatever. And so I wanted to, there's like all kinds of riffs and like glissandi, and it's the first, and that first Shakespeare thing is very normal and tonal. And then this Anchor's Julian of Norwich piece sounds like Star Trek on a very bad day. And I'm sure to someone they won't be able to sing it because their because their sensitivities will be terribly upset and it'll just be so upsetting. And I hope they feel that way because then again, whatever. So I want to do that. And then the third song is Forest Song, um, which was written by Brian Tucker. But of course, Mark Bradley messed with it and screwed it all up.
And it's always been a great honor to have had that piece in your hands. So I
Oh,
really have appreciated what extra energy you've given that.
oh, please. It was a great honor that you gave it to me because it was so much fun to mess around with. And you were so kind when I said, "Can I mess around with it?" And you said, "Please, have fun." And I did. And I like how it came out, and I hope a couple of people enjoy it at some other point. But and your forest song is about someone looking at, I'll just say this and then I'll stop and then you say what it's really about. Because my impression is different than how the master feels. You're the master of this stuff. So to me, it's like a bunch of beings in a forest that all live and their lives are all intertwined. And each of them has a little bit different story that happens in the song. So the music does different things. When the bear comes in, that it's darker, and the bear is killing a fish, and so to have something for lunch. So that part, I have it the harmonically it's more tense and more and darker. And then when the bird is flying off at the beginning, it's a lot lighter sounding. I just had fun with imagining each animal and what it was, especially harmonically, that could represent that being. And at the end, there's a big section that I just love where the song turns around and it talks to, I hate when I get weepy. Um, it talks to the audience and it just says, "I love you." And I always thought that was Brian. That was a stroke of genius. I thought that was just so brilliant. I had so much fun working on that. And I had fun turning it around just before that part, just so nobody would know harmonically where is it going, so that it could sound like, wait a second, what's happening now? It was really fun. So thank you for that chance to be able to
Oh,
work, and I'm very grateful.
no, that's great. That's great.
Well, tell us what it's really about.
Oh, well, I thought of this song as a love letter from the universe, actually, through the voices of four distinct characters. One from the plant world, the others, from the animal and various animal realms. So I have thought each of the four parts to this had a message to convey to us that hopefully, if we hear it, that it can become like a theme that uplifts you. Each animal comes with a message to uplift you, and finally, the pine tree in the forest even has a message. So musically, I'm hoping that somebody listening to the words can really hear the essence, which I hope they see it as a love letter coming from like the deepest part of themselves to affirm what it means to be in creation, what it means to be in relationship with all of life, and the beauty of that relationship. Here, we're blessed to have that in the world. So I like to think of it as a love letter from the universe.
That's wonderful. It's a that's I think that's better than what I said. I like your version. And I think that though, even though those three songs, it might be strange also for musicians to think that the first two were my concoction, and then the third one is um, like one of my crazy arrangement things. But I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. And there again, that's not traditional, but I don't really care. Um, I'm trying to think if I think we talked about everything that's online um, plus one thing that I haven't even finished, the cello sonata. So um, there's other stuff that might be online, but I sort of don't want to mention it just because I'm not really sure if I'll be able to. If I can't figure out how to make it so that I think it's good, I'm not gonna put it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
but uh, how do we do?
I think this is good. I mean, you're going over the collection of pieces that have meant something to you, and you're introducing us to some of the backstory. This is the perspective that you bring, which is fresh, iconoclastic, interesting. And I think people maybe I'd love them to be able to hear the piece and then maybe to hear you talking about it afterwards, so they can first have an experience of it and some time to consider what do they feel after hearing this, what's evoked, and then at some point kind of interact with you as a composer. I wonder what might this be, how might this be speaking to me, what is this leading me towards this piece. So I'd love for people to have a chance to hear your music and then hear you speak about them, the pieces.
Oh, and then afterwards they can either feel happy they listened or they can go
That's
outside and
right.
break some glass. I'm not
That's
gonna.
right. Well, I think it's important for people to understand they're on a bit of a journey, and you, as a composer, are on a journey, and you're leading people into a new exploration of musicality. Yeah, they're not taking them down that a very familiar road. People walking with you are going to be delighted and challenged a variety of emotions, but it's going to be fresh and new, and that's something exciting about your work.
Well, I have to say to stick up for other composers that what I'm doing isn't something that no one's ever done before. I think I might be doing it in a little bit different way, and but there are other composers that played around with tonality and 12 tone stuff. And the first one that comes to mind is George Rockberg. And George Rockberg is a composer I love. And when I was in college, he was one of the forbidden composers that I literally had a composition teacher that said, I kid you not, like in a composition lesson, the teacher said, Mark, you are not buying George Rockberg records, are you? And I said, I most certainly am. And the lesson almost came to a screeching halt because you weren't supposed to do that because George liked he could see value in tonality and 12 tone. And so there were other composers that messed around with it, but everybody that's done it has done it a different way because it's like those two, that area is very not explored, and there's several composers that have done it, but it's like galaxies big. It's huge. You
Wow.
could do so much with it, and no one, and still people are nowadays thinking we just want, nowadays it's tonality is the answer.
Yep.
We will not do the evil. And so there's lots of music, and I have to say, this is fine if someone likes it. It's not my cup of tea, but if someone, uh, thing nowadays is very slow moving harmonic. It's got to go very slow motion. And the singer's got to sing just of some, for like a minute and with one chord, and then the chord changes. And then, of course, you know how I handle that. I don't do very well with it, but that's okay. But that's the thing that we have nowadays. And it's a reaction to in the 20s, 30s, 40s, even before that, teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Some composers are trying to write the ugliest stuff that they could imagine, um, or what people perceive that that was happening. And so what's happening now is a backlash, or at least it's my humble opinion, which I'm very happy to be wrong. I don't really care. It's a kind of a other side of that same coin. And I just don't think the answer is either one, either making um, oh, have you seen the guy online? Actually, I don't want to listen, but I really admire him. There's a guy who has a whole bunch of junk on top of a table, and he's like rattling pots and pans and smashing things together, and there's like microphones, and it's like minutes and minutes and minutes of just like noise. And and that's an idea. And I thought for like 10 minutes, I thought it was really cool, and I'm kind of done.
Yeah.
But that was cool. I thought it was really a great thing. And um, so there's just, I don't know, there's everything going on now. And I'm not at all the least bit upset that music generally doesn't get played, because I like peace and quiet and I want to be able to work. Because if this stuff, any of this stuff was getting played, I'd have to spend a lot of time explaining
Right.
things, and I don't
Yeah.
even, I don't know about that. So,
Well, I'm glad this is part two, and we did our first recording and explored a little more of your early life and influences. So this is helpful today to hear you talk about the pieces and some context behind the pieces. So I think this is a good place. This is a good place to wind it down and
okay.
um, yeah. But I think it's interesting to hear, you know, your move to keep writing regardless. I think you're enjoying this. I'm glad you have this space in your life to be able to do the compositions you want to work on. And my hope is that people begin to recognize the value of these pieces and have some curiosity and want to encounter more of your music.
Oh, thanks, Brian.
Yeah. So I'm going to stop the recording and then let's see. Let's just